This is going to be the solution spotlight on data governance. We actually have a gentleman remote, David Hendrawirawan, who is going to be our presenter, and this is going to be an interview format. Will Gray, our Managing Director of Client Success at Technion, is going to be the interviewer. Let me tell you a little bit about David. David has been a principal consultant with Technion since March of 2020. He's a certified information privacy professional. He came to Technion from Deloitte Risk Advisory Practice, where he specialized in advising organizations on data governance, particularly those heavily regulated industries and sectors. David also has extensive experience in leading teams to deliver data, analytics, cybersecurity, risk, and IT enterprise business architect for customer MDM, data warehousing, and data integration at Dell. That is a mouthful. Very qualified, very experienced, and we're very excited to hear from him. So, Will, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, David. So, good morning. My name is Will Gray, and I'm the Managing Director of Client Success here at Technion, as David said. I'm joined with David Hendrawirawan, who leads our data governance practice, that one should consider when implementing data governance strategy overall. And so, David, excited to have you here with us.
Thank you, Will. Can you hear me?
I can. So
Great.
You have spent many years in large organizations like Deloitte and Dell. What made you decide to join Technion, and what are the major lessons over the past 6 months that you have learned getting to work with some of our clients?
Yeah, Will. So I've after spending so many years when I was with Dell and Deloitte, I had the privilege of working with many complex projects involving data governance, and all those years I've seen many organizations found it very challenging to yield tangible value out of their data governance endeavors. So understandably, there's a widespread perception that data governance is only affordable to the larger companies, and also that probably mainly people do it to comply with regulations.
Thank you.
So when I first met with the Technion team, I was intrigued. Many of Technion clients are in the medium small business segments, but they're increasingly interested in implementing data governance in a pragmatic, cost-effective ways, and also to get quicker and more direct value. So I'm intrigued by that, and also intrigued to learn that the Technion leadership recognized data governance is a critical pillar to services and products portfolio, because we are focused strategically on automation, on self-service, cloud, data science, and metadata-driven development. These are all the things that require strong data governance. That's why I find it as an exciting personal challenge to translate the learnings that I've gotten from doing data governance for three of the largest banks in the U.S., for a social media company, and for a major pharmaceutical. And I'd love to work with the team here in Technion to turn those into product features, into design patterns, and smart practices that can work well for organizations of all sizes.
Oh, and I really appreciate that, David. It's great having you on board, and just seeing over the 6 months that you've been here, the return that it's already made for our clients, and just being able to help our consultants bring better solutions to the market, and really delivering with data governance as part of the design of those solutions. We've been talking data governance for 10 years in general as a technology, maybe even longer. What's really changed today, and why have we seen this uptake again in the importance of data governance?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Really, I think as I reflect upon it, there's been a widespread adoption of cloud computing, mobile devices, Internet of Things, and with automation of infrastructure as a code, and machine learning and AI. All of these increase the scale of the data in terms of the volume and the speed and the complexity of the processing. And so 10 years ago, data was primarily confined to a single tenant, on-premise, and non-elastic infrastructure. Software development and analytics development are, for the most part, manual. So, the data governance used to be focused mainly on the data quality and data lineage in the data warehouse and the BI environments, and that's usually the starting point. But today, the focus has to be expanded to more complex scenarios such as data discovery and understanding of the data, especially if you have a semi and unstructured format such as the data lake. Data governance is also very critical to ensure that we can provide secure and timely access and to provide seamless data sharing while also protecting the privacy of that customer information and making sure that there's ethical use by our third parties. And finally, I think the third factor is that the regulations are getting much more pervasive and robust today. There are privacy laws like GDPR and CCPA, like Malcolm mentioned. um, Specifically for financial services, the state of New York has a law called DFS 500 requiring cybersecurity for financial institutions operating in their jurisdiction. And there are various risk and financial rules, such as the Dodd-Frank stress testing rules, the CECL credit risk, call report, AML, and the OCC has SR 11.7 for model risk management. All of these require robust data governance. So those are the factors that makes data governance even more critical and important in these times.
It's really interesting, with the expansion of different data delivery systems like data lakes coming online, and the increased regulation, which is in a lot of ways good with PII, PHI, and the different regulators that you're seeing take place. How you contain those. Early in my career, data governance was really coming online and kind of the first big push. But every time anybody from information security or CIOs mentioned data governance, we always ended up with the size and a lot of fears that came from the business side. And so, what are some of those fears that we see today from business people, and how do we typically address those so that it expands out how data governance is delivered and data democracy overall?
It's very intriguing question, and so you're right. A lot of the data governance initiative for many organizations typically are started from more of the technical function like IT. And that's because, for the earlier part of our technology journey, a lot of people think that data is an IT problem, right? That's an IT thing. And so the business naturally developed this perception that it is something that they don't want to take a part in initially, or they don't really fully understand. And especially when we hear that a lot of data governance programs can cost a lot of money and seldom has the return that is expected. So these increases a lot of the skepticism among the business people. I think it is important for the champions of data governance to make sure that there is alignment and cooperation, strong cooperation between IT and the business. And to make sure that we dispel the myths, such as data governance will not handcuff the organization from innovation and data. That's a misperception, right? So if you can deliver data governance in a non-invasive, pragmatic ways. It does not have to be just a compliance and check in the box function. Leaders need to convince the business that they're not going to lose control over their data or their processes. And a lot of companies in a lot of data resources probably want to be focused more in the areas that are sexy, like data science. But as a result, then data governance may be underinvested or not equipped with the best resources. So to overcome that, business leaders needs to really set the tone at the top. That data governance is very important. I think about when I started with my first data governance formal job title about 12 years ago. that is still a battle. But nowadays, I think for the most part, as we hear in the presentation among all of the presenters today, for the most part, that misperception I think has been overcome. I think people recognize the importance of data governance. So it's all about now implementing the models that are more pragmatic and cost effective for the business and IT.
I think that's extremely helpful. Once you get data
Well,
governance,
I think I am losing your audio. I don't know if everybody else can
no,
still hear me.
I can hear you. I think you're fine. Can you hear me? Can y'all hear me? All right, I'm getting a thumbs up, so we're good. So I think
I'm not sure if you can hear me, Will, but I cannot hear you yet.
I can hear you. Okay, so I think we're good, David, and it looks like somebody just posted onto the Zoom that they can hear us both. So
great. So now I can hear you.
Perfect. So now that we're past kind of the initial phase and buy-in and trying to get the right people on the right project because of the importance and how to enable this, how do you overall measure, articulate, and socialize the value of data governance as you're both implementing and probably through the life of your data governance initiative as it evolves?
Yeah, so this is a lot of times people feel that data in general, right, data warehouse, data platform is difficult to quantify because it has indirect value, and especially data governance. How do you measure the value of something like data governance? Well, actually, you can measure it, right? It may not be as precise as other type of measure, but there's definitely a good, logical, rational way of estimating it. So you can start with as simple as surveying your business subject matter experts to estimate what's the potential increase in revenue if we have more accurate and timely information for sales and marketing. So it involves, you may not be able to get to the most accurate estimation on the first try, but if we apply kind of this Bayesian thinking, right? Some information is better than no information, and then you can build over time and improve that estimation over time and test it. So now there's also even more precise and actually robust quantitative models. There is a model that's called factor analysis of information risk, or FAIR methodology. Okay, and there are also a number of operational risk-based forecasting framework that they use. Monte Carlo simulation and value at risk models will take inputs such as what's your data volume, what's the number of users, what are the level of controls for data quality and cybersecurity in the organization. These are all very robust models. They require higher level of sophistication and instrumentation. We have delivered projects where we don't necessarily go all the way to the most sophisticated, but we follow the principles, the thought process, right? And a lot of those things actually are not as difficult as most people think. Doesn't require as much data as people may imagine. But aside from all of this quantification process, I just wanted to emphasize that just as important as how we measure it is how you communicate it to the stakeholders, especially if the maturity of the understanding about the value and the risk with information is not very high. So, and we recommend that as you start, that you prioritize and bucket those DG value drivers and investments, perhaps into shorter and to the longer term buckets, so that the stakeholders will feel more comfortable in making smaller incremental investments.
Oh, I think that's excellent. And who says data governance can't be sexy if you're talking about Bayesian models and Monte Carlo models, right? And ultimately, they're part of the solutions that make the day anyways. And so I think that's very, very insightful. We have only a few minutes left, and then we're going to turn it over to questions from the audience. So make sure you're submitting questions in the chat window. How does this change with COVID, right? What have we seen our clients and others in the marketplace doing from a data governance solution?
Yes. Well, I mean, obviously now I'm working from home in College Station, Texas here. As more people are working from home, there's going to be increasing digital interactions and data footprint across the board. So it will only strengthen the case to develop a strong data capability and a data governance. I think customers are demanding more and more digital capabilities for any businesses, from the retail all the way to the wholesale level. So that's just going to generate more data. So if anything, I think we just this season reminds us that we need to be more resilient. We need to be thinking ahead about risk and strategically be prepared, and not just doing the prevention or the correction, but also the strategic planning and war gaming and simulation, right? So we need to employ all of the above in order to be prepared.
Thank you. I'm actually seeing on the chat window we have quite a few data governance questions queued up, and so I think hopefully everybody's finding this really insightful. But before we get to those, I'm pretty sure I heard a lot of whoops come over the phone when you announced that you're in College Station. So you made a lot of Aggies on the call very happy. So yes. The first question I have is from Marisol. What is the best way to frame the high initial investment and lag in ROI in developing data governance strategy to the C-suite?
I think, yes, Marisol, thanks for the question. We need to make sure that we have an honest estimation, right? So in some of our projects where we were successfully developing and delivering the data governance roadmap, we didn't just deliver the roadmap. We actually provide a clear, transparent information that we estimated this is how much time, how much effort it's going to take. We described to them not just the estimate numbers, but the thought process by which we got to those. The numbers themselves may not be correct, and the executives know that, but at least by showing the thought process, for example, we walk through, in a particular client situation, things such as, hey, in the event of a data breach, right? So one of the key concerns, the goal of data governance is to prevent, sharing confidential information that does not comply with privacy law. So we say, if there, in an event of a breach, how much is the potential regulatory fine? Well, it's about $200 per record. Well, we calculated, how much record do you have? How many systems do those records exist in? What is the, most remote up to the more likely, in the likeliest scenario, what is the potential breach? And then we simply do a simple math to calculate what that, from the magnitude and probability perspective. And we share that with the executives by prefacing that the numbers may not be accurate, but the thought process is there. And when they saw those ranges, they have an easier time believing in the value of data governance.
That's really helpful. And I think we're out of time. So everybody, I really appreciate you attending the session. David H., thank you for your insight. And, just feel free to send us questions if you do come up with those, and we'll do our best to help. Thank you, David. Good talking with you.